All right, listener, you ready for this? It's going to be a wild one. This deep dive, you've really thrown us a curveball this time. We've got your notes and a YouTube transcript about some virtual race thing.
It's pretty interesting combo, right? We get to see not just the race itself, but the commentary around it, the community. You know how people are reacting in real time? It's like a window into the whole world of sim racing.
Okay, so first things first, uh, what is this bmrl thing? Help me out here because I'm a little lost.
Hmm.
Luckily, you've given us some notes to work with, so summarize the details from the redacted all notes document. Provide the listener context about BMRL as a sim racing league. So BMRL, it sounds like they take this stuff seriously. This isn't just some casual weekend thing. Let's jump into that YouTube transcript and see what this race is all about. What are we getting into here?
And keep in mind, this is from a live stream, so it's not just the race itself, is the commentator too. We've got this guy, blurry guy, calling the action and chatting with viewers at the same time.
Whoa, it's got to be tough, right? Talk about multitasking.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this so cool. We get to see how the community interacts. You know, it's not just about the competition, it's a shared experience.
Okay, so it looks like this is a pretty intense championship battle. We've got three drivers, Tomato Soup, Nulu, and Loki Killer, all vying for the top spot. I'm feeling the pressure already.
Yeah, and that pressure makes every little thing matter. Every overtake, every mistake. This isn't just a race, it's a championship showdown.
And you know what else is interesting? The transcript even talks about the practice sessions and qualifying. This blurry guy, he seems to do everything. Server setup, car adjustments, even grabbing a coffee while people are out there racing.
It really shows you how grassroots sim racing can be, even at a competitive level. It's still very DIY. People like Bluna Guy, they wear a lot of hats to make this happen.
I love that. It's like a one-man show, but with high-speed virtual cars. That's amazing.
Yeah. And speaking of personalities, there's this funny moment where Blurry Guy has to remind some of the drivers about rolling starts.
Now, hold on. To be honest, I'm not totally sure I understand what a rolling start is. Could you break that down for us?
Sure. A rolling start is where the cars line up and gradually increase their speed together before the green flag drops instead of starting from a dead stop.
Okay, I'm with you.
You see it a lot in sim racing and even some real-world racing to make the start more even and some would say safer. It's all about timing, like a choreographed dance.
That makes sense. So even experienced drivers got to learn the ropes of each league, right? Like it's a whole new set of rules for a new game.
Absolutely. And that brings us to some pre-race drama. We have this driver, Sin, who sets a crazy fast qualifying time, but he forgot to register properly, so his time doesn't count.
Ouch. That's got to be so frustrating. Do you think that sort of thing points to like a fairness issue in sim racing? Like, are there barriers that make it tough for new drivers to compete?
That's a really good point. Just like any competition, sim racing needs clear rules and systems, to make sure everyone has a fair shot. This situation with Sin definitely raises some questions about how smoothly those systems are working.
Okay, so let's get this race started. The green flag drops, and Tomato Soup takes the early lead. But Nulu and Loki Killer are right on his tail. I can picture it now.
And the way Blurry Guy describes it in the transcript, his commentary gets more and more intense. You can really feel the excitement building. He even says this is shaping up to be one of his top 5 races ever. And this guy, he's seen a lot of races.
Wow, high praise from the man who's seen it all. So it's not just a close race, it's like a memorable race, something special.
Exactly. And it's not just those top 3 duking it out either. We've got MAA and Mr. Sunlawn making some moves too, trying to take advantage of any slip-ups from the leaders.
Oh, wow, so there's action happening further down the pack, not just at the front.
Yeah, it's anyone's game at this point. And then, right in the middle of all this action, Blurry Guy decides to tighten up the safety car rules.
Is that common? Like, can he just do that mid-race?
It's actually a pretty interesting strategy. By deploying the safety car more often, he bunches the field up, creates more opportunities for overtaking. It's like he's adding a little chaos to the mix.
I can imagine. Like he's shuffling the deck mid-game.
Yeah.
So what happens next? Does it get even crazier?
Oh, you better believe it. Those restarts after each safety car period are total mayhem. Drivers are bumping and jostling for position. Blurry Guy even says he's never seen a fight for first like this, where all the contenders have a real shot at winning.
Man, that sounds intense. It shows you that even with virtual cars, it's still all about human skill and those split-second decisions, right? But then, on lap 37, things take a really weird turn.
This is where it gets interesting.
Sin, the driver who got disqualified earlier, he's now multiple laps down A&D, driving on only 3 wheels. He lost the tire, but just kept going.
It's wild, right? You'd think he'd just call it a day, but no, he's out there pushing that virtual car to the absolute limit. I guess it's that never give up attitude, but
Yeah.
it seems a little crazy.
Glory Guy even tells him to delete his car and get off the track, but Sin ignores him. Now we've got this three-wheeled car weaving around as the leaders are coming up behind him.
And that's where we'll have to leave it for now. What do you think happens next?
Okay, so we've got Sin out there in this a three-wheeled death trap, basically. And the leaders are closing in. What does Blurry Guy even do in this situation?
Well, he really doesn't have much choice. With Sin's car basically being a moving obstacle, Blurry Guy has to throw another safety car out there.
Oh, man. I bet that just throws everyone into a frenzy.
It really does. I mean, you can just imagine the drivers trying to avoid Sin's car, Blurry Guy trying to keep everyone calm and get them lined up behind the safety car. Talk about pressure.
Yeah, no kidding. I'd be freaking out. So it's like real racing in a way, right? You can have all these plans, but then something totally unexpected happens and throws everything off.
Exactly. And to Blurry Guy's credit, he manages to keep things under control. He even cracks a few jokes in the middle of all the craziness.
Oh, yeah. The transcript mentions something about him telling everyone to get in line because we're going green in a minute.
Right. Even in the heat of the moment, he finds a way to keep things lighthearted, connect with the viewers.
Okay, so the safety car comes in. We've got 4 laps to go. It's MAA in the lead now with Nulu, Loki Killer, and Tomato Soup right behind him. This is insane.
And you remember, this is for the championship, so every single position matters. Every point could make the difference.
The tension's got to be through the roof. Okay, so
Bam.
Nulu makes a move, grabs the lead, but then MAA slams into the wall trying to get back in front.
Yeah, it's like that classic saying, to finish first, you must first finish, right? He just pushed a little too hard.
Oh, man, that's got a sting for MAA. Okay, so where are we now? Loki Killer's right on Nulu's tail. Tomato Soup's trying to recover from a spin. We're entering the final lap. I can't even handle this.
I know, right? It's like you can practically feel the tension through the transcript. This is it, the moment of truth for the whole championship.
Nulu's holding on. Loki Killer's getting closer. And then, bam, out of nowhere, MAA comes flying back in. Tries to squeeze past Loki Killer on the inside. What is happening?
Oh, yeah, that was a bold move. Maybe a little too bold.
You think? Because he goes in too hot and takes himself and Loki Killer out? Just like that.
It happens all the time in racing, right? That split-second decision, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, ambition maybe got the best of him.
And now it's Tomato Soup, who's been hanging back in third this whole time. He's got a clear shot at the finish line. Like fate stepped in.
That's racing for you, right? Stay consistent, avoid mistakes, and sometimes you end up in the right place at the right time. It's not always about being the fastest.
So Nulu crosses the line first, Tomato Soup right behind him.
Yeah.
But wait, something's not right.
This is where the technology gets really interesting. Blurry Guy is looking at the results, and something's off. They don't match what he saw.
So he pulls up the replay, goes over it frame by frame. What does he see?
He spots it. Nulu clipped the wall on that last lap. It was a tiny little mistake, but these sim racing games, they're so precise, they pick up on everything.
I guess that makes sense. Virtual world, virtual rules, right? So what happens? Does Nulu get penalized for this?
He does. A time penalty. And guess who ends up being the official winner?
No way, Loki Killer. The guy who got taken out on the last lap. That's crazy.
I know, right? Like something out of a movie. I bet the chat was going nuts at that point. I can only imagine Blurry Guy's reaction.
Talk about a plot twist. But wait, there's more. Because now Blurry Guy tries to set up a virtual podium for the top 3, for the viewers, but the game glitches out.
It's those moments that remind us that even with all this technology, sometimes things just go wrong. It's all part of the fun of live streaming, though, right?
True. Okay, so now we need to figure out the championship standings. Even Blurry Guy seems to be struggling with the math here.
Yeah, it gets a little confusing. There's talk about a penalty from a previous race that's affecting the current standings. Blurry Guy seems unsure about how it all works out.
Makes you wonder, right? If even the commentator's confused, imagine how the drivers must be feeling.
Exactly. It definitely adds to the drama. Okay, so despite all the confusion, Blurry Guy announces the top 3 in the championship. Nulu's still in first, Loki Killer's jumped to second, and Tomato Soup has dropped to third. It's all shaken up, and there are still more races to go.
Yeah, this season's going down to the wire, that's for sure. With the standings this close and that penalty from the earlier race still hanging over everyone's heads, it's going to be an intense finish.
All right, so the episode ends with Blurry Guy talking about some upcoming events. And get this, he mentions a battle royale. where the drivers just smash into each other on purpose.
Sounds chaotic, right?
Yeah. I don't know what that is exactly, but I'm intrigued.
I think it's just a fun way to mix things up,
Yeah.
keep the viewers entertained. It shows that sim racing can be more than just, serious competition. It can be about having fun, too.
I gotta admit, I'm totally hooked on this bmrl thing. Even though I don't know much about sim racing, I'm invested in these drivers now. What about you? Me too. It's been a roller coaster ride so far. I'm definitely curious to see how it all ends.
Okay, so we've talked about the race itself, the drama, the excitement. But what does this all mean for our listeners, right? What are the big takeaways here?
Well, I think this deep dive into your sources has given us a real glimpse into what bmrl is all about. We've seen incredible skill, crazy crashes, and even some technology issues along the way. But I think what stands out to me is that sense of community.
Yeah, you're right. It's like this whole online world has its own culture, its own set of values.
Totally. Even though these drivers are competing virtually, you can feel that shared passion, that camaraderie.
The blurry guy, he plays a huge role in that. He's not just a commentator. He's like the glue that holds this community together.
Absolutely. He's the personality, the voice, the connection point for everyone. It's a reminder that in the world of online gaming, those personalities, those connections, they really matter.
Okay, so zooming out a bit, what does this tell us about sim racing in general?
I think it shows us that sim racing is more than just a hobby. It's a growing industry, with its own culture, technology, a dedicated fan base.
And this race, with all its craziness, it's just a small window into that world. But I feel like there's more to the story, right?
Oh, there's definitely more. Remember those personal notes you send in? There might be some clues in there that we've overlooked.
Yeah, those notes. We kind of got sidetracked by all the action, didn't we? What do you think we might find in there?
Well, remember how Blurry Guy was having trouble with the championship points? Especially with that penalty from the earlier race.
Oh, yeah, that was bugging him. Like he knew something was up, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it.
Exactly. And those notes might give us some context. Maybe they explain how the point system works or shed some light on what happened in that previous race. The one that's causing all this confusion now.
Ooh, mystery. It's like we're detectives trying to crack the case.
And who knows what else we might find in those notes. Maybe some insights into the drivers themselves, their personalities, their relationships, maybe even their thoughts on the whole sin situation.
It's like there's always more to the story than meets the eye, is there? It reminds me of those nature documentaries where they zoom in on a tiny little area and discover this whole ecosystem.
I love that analogy. It's what makes these deep dives so fascinating. We start with something specific like this race, and then it opens up this whole world.
So, listener, we've taken you through the ups and downs of this wild bmrl race, introduced you to the players, and explored the drama behind the scenes. But now we want to leave you with something to think about. Do you think virtual racing could ever become as popular and as prestigious as real-world motorsports?
It's a tough question. I mean, sim racing has some advantages. It's more accessible, more affordable, and the technology is always getting better. The lines between virtual and reality are getting blurrier all the time.
And as we've seen, it can be just as competitive and exciting as the real thing. These drivers are incredibly skilled, and the community is super passionate. Who knows, maybe one day virtual races will be just as big as Formula One or NASCAR.
I wouldn't rule it out. Just imagine virtual reality experiences that put you right in the driver's seat, global esports tournaments with huge prize pools, even partnerships between real racing teams and virtual leagues. The possibilities are endless.
That's an exciting thought. And hey, maybe someday we'll be doing a deep dive on your sim racing journey, listener.
Yeah.
Until then, thanks for joining us for this wild ride. It's been a blast.